Very, very important. The talk of the town. We are in eclipse season. If you attended my lunar node and eclipse class last week, where we had a thunderstorm and a hailstorm, and as promised, I kept that in the video. That came out on my YouTube channel last Wednesday. You can go check that out if you want to understand what the lunar nodes are. So what's the North Node? What's the South Node? What are the types of eclipses? What's a solar eclipse? What's a lunar eclipse? All covered in that video. And I talked about that, the current cycle, the Pisces and Virgo cycle, on the high level, understanding what all of the dates are. September 7th at 2:09 p.m. Eastern Time, the North Node eclipse in Pisces at 15 degrees. This is a full moon eclipse, one of the very few eclipses that we have in Pisces in this series. Because it is a North Node eclipse, we are thinking on the collective level about our calling and ways that we can, as individuals, lean into the higher vibrational energy of Pisces, meaning creativity, intuition, compassion, and healing, like being a healer. Plus, we want to integrate the house that is at that 15-degree point. So when you pull up your chart, you're going to go 15 degrees of Pisces, which is going to be smack dab in the middle, and then find the one house that is at that degree point. When you have an eclipse, eclipses carry beginning and ending energy. So we don't expect, like on an eclipse day, it could happen, but we don't expect that on an eclipse day, we're going to have a beginning or ending. When you have an eclipse series, when you're in the eclipse portal, because we have them happening 6 months apart, not exactly going to be happening here. You'll hear more about that in the class that I released, because we're going to have an Aquarius eclipse, not a Pisces next time. Normally, they're on a 6-month cycle. For Pisces, they're all a year apart. So we're having yearly check-ins in September and August. And so you are kind of planting the seed, not manifesting, but the energetic seed of a beginning and ending, and then we're circling back on it pretty much an entire year later. So we have a really big gap in between. So there's a lot of time there where your beginnings and endings could transpire for this degree point in this area of life. And really, we're thinking about an entire year out. So experiencing beginnings and endings at the 15 degree of Pisces house area could happen anytime or be kind of a long process between now and the next Pisces eclipse next year. The lower vibrational side of Pisces is detachment, escapism, illusion, delusion, naivete, are being really gullible. That is not the energy that we're trying to move into. We're trying to move towards the high vibrational side over the next couple years, but especially on these eclipse days, we're like, how can I pull that energy in? Where am I at? What am I doing with this area of life, with this energy? How am I fusing the high vibrational Pisces with that degree point? I'm looking at my 9th house, which is teaching, learning, publishing, education, long distance travel, religion, spirituality. Perfect for Misty. Misty is the same. So when you're looking at that 9th house, you're saying, okay, how can I move towards the creative expression, the infusing my intuition, infusing my kindness, connection, desire to heal and help other people with a beginning or an ending. So because we're trying to focus more on the beginning side, because this is a North Node. So you'd be saying, how can I apply those energies to a trip that I'm planning, a subject that I want to read, that I'm recognizing I want to teach about? I know, Misty, for you, you're working on some different content in this this Mercury in Virgo. So maybe you're thinking about, it's kind of giving you some of that inspiration for what you could launch, something else that you could teach. And then you take that Mercury in Virgo energy and you start generating some of that content. So it could be a really good boost for that publishing, that teaching, education piece. And so the education I want to mention as well, it could be something that you're learning. So you could be deciding to read something, attend a class, sign up for something. 11th house is looking at that relationship building in community, in connection with friends. Again, because we're moving towards, Roseanne, you could be saying to yourself or having some reflections on, how do you want to relate to other people? How can you have more of a sweetness, a kindness, more the energetic flow, being aligned, being on the same page, having the creativity, having the healing properties? How can you have friends? How can you have communities? How can you have groups that you're in that are healing or that allow you to heal? So it could be things that crop up that you're thinking about. And then we have 10th house in your career. So same kind of a thing. So you say, okay, well, what am I doing in the course of my career? What am I doing in my relationships with, my boss or my supervisors? What am I doing with, my reputation, my skill set? Am I being seen by others as someone who's compassionate and creative and sensitive? Do I want to move into that? Do I want to infuse some of that into my career? Do I have any ways where I am healing others or myself through my career and the work that I'm doing and how I present? If not, then maybe you're kind of thinking about ways that you could start doing that and have that beginning. So kind of buffing out the rough edges. Pisces 6th house, whole sign. But this degree is 5th house. Yes, Lolo. So you can do both. So this is a really great question. If you want to use your whole sign chart, and if you want to use Placidus, you can have both. And then just kind of see what unlocks for you. So I tend to operate with my whole sign, but I like to be aware of if something is happening in a different house in Placidus, because it just gives you something else to look out for. So you could find that your beginning and ending, that this activation, maybe it is activating the 5th house more than it is activating the 6th house. And you'll only know with time over the next year. But maybe it does, in fact, do a combination of both. And that just kind of gives you some insight in informing maybe how you want to work with your chart, if you want to work with one or both versions. So what you could look out for the 5th house is, we already mentioned creativity. That is right in line with the 5th house energy. That is about creativity. So that's where it could be a little bit hard to decipher, because Pisces is creativity, but then 5th house is creativity. So then you kind of want to omit that one. That just would be kind of an expectation that will come up somewhere. So if you want to try to differentiate, is it 6th or 5th? You want to start looking at the other characteristics. So folding in the intuition, how could you connect to intuition in a way that is playful, or that you're incorporating it into your dating, or incorporating it in relationships that you have with children, with play, with pleasure, with having fun? How can you make intuition fun, as an example? And then with the 6th house is looking at your routine. It's looking at your work. So your current job, it's looking at the work environment. Where are you working? Your work ethic, your work-life balance. It's looking at pets. It's looking at your health, your physical health, your body. So those are very, very different energies than 5th house. So that will be a great way for you to identify, is it aligning more with 6th, or is it aligning more with 5th? Because those are quite different. So if you're folding in the creativity, intuition, compassion, and healing, maybe you are applying the healing energy to how you're suddenly taking more care of your body, or in different ways. You're trying some different treatments out, or different routines in a way that are more gentle or more compassionate for you, to Maybe you're planning, as an example. It's a really great example. Maybe you're shifting how you create your routines because you're folding in your intuition. And instead of planning, you're like, okay, well, what am I feeling called to work on of this list? I'm going to pick my day based on my intuition. Maybe if that's something that you decide that you start doing and you start embracing and that starts working for you, that would be a good indicator that you have the Pisces 6th house happening. So lots of different options because we're looking at 3 different groups here. And you're just trying to see the intersection between the 2 of them. So if you want to have any sort of a log, write some things down, you can. Otherwise, it's just, if you want to figure out which one, or if it is a combination of both, is most relevant a year from now, again, it's a whole year out, then it's just either you got a good memory or you're writing some stuff down. Mira, 2nd and 8th house. So we mentioned that a little bit before. So you're looking at bringing in that compassion, connection, so intuitive and just people-based connection, sensitivity to the financial realms that we were talking about before. 2nd house is how you are earning money, your assets, things that you own, things that you value, as in your literal values as well. What are your principles and values? What is your sense of self-worth? How are you valuing yourself? And then on the other end, you have the 8th house, which is mental health, death, rebirth, transformation, money received from other people, inheritance, joint accounts, shared resources. And so how do we have compassion and a focus on healing? That feels like that's the most relevant piece for you. Like it could be healing your relationship with money, healing your relationship with yourself. Maybe the compassion is being more kind to yourself, shifting how you value yourself, that could be valuing your time, valuing your energy, your input. Pisces is not about boundaries, so we're not setting boundaries. That's Saturn. But granted, we have Saturn that's in Pisces at the same time, so keep that in mind. We have 2 different energies going on. So the North Node is not asking us to set boundaries, but Saturn is. So if you do experience a bit of that, you can attribute it to Saturn. For the North Node, we're thinking about the potential. We're thinking about like where we can go, what we could be in this space. I have a podcast and we did a episode on the 2025 eclipses in March. It was our season 2 premiere episode. So you can go listen to that to learn about, very briefly, we just kind of do a crash course. Here's what you need to know about these fall eclipses. You can also listen back to the March ones if you want. And I also have a blog post for 2025 astrology where I have a write-up. I've added the table that I mentioned in my lunar nodes and eclipse class that I did last week. So that is up there. It gives you all of the dates, talking about 2024 through 2027 for this Pisces and Virgo eclipse series. So you can see which eclipses are in sign, out of sign, if it's the North Node, if it's the South Node, the dates. And then be sure to attend the meditation class that I have on the 7th, 4 days from now, to learn about. So we'll just kind of recap a little bit of this, but then talk about it in the context of the actual eclipse day portal, doing a meditation, doing some journaling prompts related to tapping into this energy, understanding that there's beginning and endings, understanding that we're not manifesting, understanding that our objective is to connect to the higher vibrational side of Pisces. When we have this North Node in Pisces, we're trying to move towards that.